For over 30 years, the race across America has challenged riders from around the world with a complicated route that avoids the superhighways that span our great country. Instead, the race route sends riders along a path on the back roads that includes curvy turns, steep ascents and descents, mind-numbing straight-line runs, and the most beautiful scenery that America has to offer. Upping the challenge are the hot temperatures of the desert, sometimes over 110 degrees, winds in excess of 50 miles per hour, rain and lightning storms, and dark roads that are encountered as the riders enter nighttime phases of the race. By many, the race across America is judged to be the toughest bicycle race in the world. On 12 June 2012, 13 bicycle enthusiasts converged on Oceanside Beach in San Diego, California, to form up Team A of Team Red, White, and Blue. Team Red, White, and Blue's vision is to transform the way wounded veterans are reintegrated into society when they return home from combat and exit their position. Our team had 4 top-notch riders, 3 of which were disabled vets who would ride in the race to show how, by example, this vision works. Major Daniel Gade was an instructor at West Point. He served in Iraq in 04 and 05, where he was wounded in action twice and decorated for valor. The second time that he was wounded cost him his right leg. Despite his disability, he remains on active duty. Caroline Gaynor is an amateur cyclist and a triathlete who resides in New York City. She races for the Jimenez Velo Sports Cycling Team and guides blind athletes in triathlons through the See Different Foundation. Petty Officer 3rd Class Chris Suter was driven to the United States Navy with one goal: to be a Navy SEAL. Before he got his chance, he was stricken with a rare disease called Cushing disease. Thanks to the good doctors at the Navy and NIH, he was able to get the disease-causing tumor removed from his skull. A month after surgery, when things were at their bleakest and seemingly no road to turn, a group called Ride to Recovery and a cycling club called the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Bethesda cycling team, issued him a bicycle, and he told him to start pedaling. Since then he's been doing just that, pedaling. Chris Whaley grew up in State College, Pennsylvania, and now lives in Moreno Valley, California. He joined the Army because of a renewed sense of civic duty post-September 11th. When deployed in Iraq in 05, Chris was shot and lost use of his left leg. Doctors told Chris he would never be physically active again, so the next day he bought a bike and taught himself to ride adaptively with one leg. 9 equally enthusiastic people provided support to the 4 riders. Team leader Ann Williams, an outstanding athlete in her own right, was the Energizer Bunny. In addition to making sure that riders do not overextend themselves, she formed order out of chaos to keep the riders fed, bedded, and healthy. Chris Joyce, a triathlete in his own right, cast oil on troubled waters by his calming presence and in-depth knowledge of bicycles and bicycle racing. Jinwei Lee is from Malaysia and is currently a student at Penn State University. Just out of high school, Connor Burrows, whose dad owns a bicycle shop, provided excellent bicycle maintenance support. Medic Kurt Thomas saved Dan Gabe's life in Iraq and once again spread his protective wings over Dan and others for this race across America. Dexter Williford, the enforcer, scared everybody into line while mentoring the younger troops on the team. Marines rule. Jason Cherkowski, who hails from Bowie, Maryland, was jack of all trades on this trip. David Cook drove his RV from Kentucky to Ohio, where he met up with Team B to caravan 2 RVs and 2 vans to San Diego. During the actual race, Dave drove his RV over 95% of the way of an almost 3,000-mile trip, a heroic effort. When he was in his 40s, Dick Puckett had on his bucket list the desire to ride a bicycle across America. Didn't happen. When he was in his 50s and 60s, the list included riding a motorcycle on the trip. Didn't happen. Finally, he crossed off the Ride Across America bucket list item by serving as navigator on the Red, White, and Blue Team Alpha at the age of 71. By the morning of 12 June, all 13 team members had arrived at Oceanside Beach, where we made new acquaintances or renewed old ones. We prepared the vehicles for a rigorous safety inspection. We plastered signs all over the RV and 2 vans that would allow the riders to warn other drivers that the vehicle was following a bicycle rider and to assist race officials in keeping track of the 3 support vehicles. Safety was paramount. As a symbolic gesture to marking the start of the race, the 4 riders dipped the rear wheels of their bicycles in the Pacific Ocean. The riders then started the ride in a parade mode, riding 4 abreast to the official start of the race. After leaving the Pacific shoreline, the riders were immediately faced with 7% grades as they crossed the coastal range, cresting at over 4,200 feet. The riders then descended into and across the deserts of the American Southwest, crossing the Salton Sea at 235 feet below sea level. As we approached the Arizona Border Patrol point, we discovered that Jin did not have his passport with him. We had visions of him doing hard time in the infamous Arizona jail, but we were luckily not stopped at the border post. The riders climbed over 5,000 feet and crossed the Navajo and Hopi Indian reservations. We saw wild horses running alongside the road and a scrawny little dog shepherding a flock of goats and sheep. We passed through the awesome Monument Valley. Along the route, one of the vans caught fire, burning up iPods, iPads, iPhones, and other equipment. Fortunately, all the passengers got out without injury.
My service. You know how I had shoes? I don't have any shoes. The only thing I'm super happy about is my leg is on top of the other vehicle. Because that would be a pain in the process. Yeah, that'd be worth more than the vehicle bike.
Dan Gage's wedding ring, which had survived his near death in Iraq, was recovered from a pile of ashes on a van that the team managed to burn to the ground. The finder, Dave Cook, Dan's West Point roommate. After they passed through the Four Corners area, the riders began to climb the Rocky Mountains, crossing the Continental Divide at Wolf Creek Pass at an altitude of 11,000 feet. As we crossed over the divide in the wee hours of the morning, Dave Cook spotted a large bear running along the roadside. The riders descended to and crossed the Great Plains, some 700 miles wide, where they encountered strong winds. We then traversed the sprawling farmlands of the Midwest, where we passed midpoint of the race somewhere near Wichita, Kansas. At Parkersburg, West Virginia, the most difficult climbing in Ram begins, with grades of 8 to 10% and seemingly endless twists and turns.
How about them hills?
Not bad, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty steady, right?
As the mountains began to level out, the riders descended past the battlefield at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Finally, the riders approached the Chesapeake Bay and the finish line on the city docks of Annapolis, Maryland. The four riders dipped their front tires in the bay to symbolically mark the end of the race course. Success: 3,000 miles from San Diego to California to Annapolis, Maryland in 8.5 days. Well done. Dan Gade is an active military officer serving at West Point as an instructor. Chris Suter has overcome his illness and just keeps on pedaling. The doctors told Chris Swaley he could never be physically active again, so the next day he bought a bike and taught himself to ride adaptively with one leg. Caroline Gaynor continues to lead blind athletes in triathlons.